So, welcome everyone to today's Lunch and Learn. We're delighted to welcome Jem and Richard. So, Jem is the founder and CEO of Firefish, and Richard leads Qualify AI. And today they'll be talking about that platform and showing it to you. And you will have a chance to ask loads of questions and have a good old discussion about AI. So, going to hand over to you, Jem. I think you're going to do a quick intro. Is that right?
Yes, thanks, Lucy. Thank you very much, and thanks for putting on this session, and welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us. I'm as Lucy said, the founder of Firefish. We launched a separate business called Qualify AI about 18 months ago to look at how we could automate some of the qual process, and it's been very successful. And with our clients so far, we're now opening up the service to independents and other preferably non-competitive agencies. And we wanted today to really encourage a bit of a debate about the role of AI in qualitative research. I'm sure if you're anything like me, you're almost bored to tears about all the conversations about AI. Hopefully you'll see our positioning and perspective on it is actually it's all about human, not AI. AI is just a facilitator. But I'd really love to have a bit of debate at the end about what you think and where you think it's going. So I'm going to hand over to Richard, who's going to take you through the whole deck, and perhaps I'll come back and answer some questions at the end.
Yeah, thanks, Jem, and hi everyone. Thanks for your time. So, yeah, as Jem said, Qualify is something that we spun out of Firefish just over a year ago, and I'm going to kind of just take you through the journey of our thinking and how we developed it, because we have come at this from a very different place as to what you probably see, in an industry that's swamped with AI tools, especially qual AI tools, all being built by tech people who can do very clever things, but don't always fundamentally understand the world of qualitative research. And so we've come at it from the other direction, obviously, from Firefish, which Jem set up 25 years ago. And we want to just talk through that journey and the successes we're having, and the hope that you'll find some comfort in this, inspire you to think of use cases, and maybe a chance to work together on it. So, as we all know, the industry, qualitative research, is under a lot of pressure at the moment. And when we speak to our clients, one of the big conversations is always, I work in a business that moves really fast, and market research is often too slow, too expensive, and too rigid. And Stephen Gans, who's the Chief Insight and Analytics Officer at PepsiCo, who has become famous for kind of bringing all of their creative testing in-house with Zappy, talks about marketing being a real-time game, and that's the game we're in, and that's the game that research has to play to. So we faced this challenge, and when we talk to clients, they articulate this as saying our stakeholders in businesses need insight, and they're often found themselves in meetings where they are saying, I need a bit more time, I need a bit more money if we're going to do that correctly. And it gets to the point then sometimes they just stop getting invited to those meetings and briefs stop appearing. Or they get into this dilemma of going, I need to try and do something fast, so I'm going to do something cheap, so I'm going to do something kind of DIY and techie, or I'm just going to let the guys in marketing and brand just move on and make those decisions. So it's not a great position for them to be in. It's not a great position for us to be in. So that was the pressure that we were all feeling. And of course, coming out of Firefish, we're also feeling that pressure of going, we've always been innovative, we've always been on the front foot with these things. How are we going to embrace a technology that on the surface could also make us obsolete? But Jem very boldly said, well, if anyone's going to make us obsolete, we'll make ourselves obsolete, and we'll solve this problem for us, and we'll solve it for all our clients as well. So that led us to the thought that, rather than running away from AI, maybe we should run towards it. How can we embrace it? How could it be our savior? So we did lots of piloting over sort of the 6 months in the build up to the launch of Qualify, so which launched February 2024. So most of 2023 was spent figuring this out, doing piloting and testing. And it's clear, it was clear then and it's clear now that what AI offers us is speed and scale. It's fast. We can do things in days that took weeks. It could scale across markets and languages without any impact really on cost and pace. It brings a robustness to the richness of qual. So instead of doing, 10 IDIs in the market, we can do hundreds overnight. And of course, it's affordable because it's incredibly cost effective to scale like that compared to traditional qual. And we can set up projects and repeat and repeat and repeat across markets or across rounds of research. So we can iterate with our clients very skillfully. But it was also very clear at AI is not good enough on its own. So where did we start to think about the real challenges for AI and where we could push back on clients going to kind of AI only tech solutions? So the first point is the old garbage in, garbage out. The quality of what we get out depends entirely on what we put in and how we set projects up. So we all know this, but we spend a lot of time therefore with our clients who have got different ideas they want to put in front of people, from new innovation, new products, new creative. They often want to put in a lot of stim that will overwhelm people. And obviously in an environment with AI, we're not in a focus group room. We can't stop people and say, you've misunderstood, let's recalibrate. How do we show multiple versions of things in the right order so there's no research bias? All of that stuff. That's a real fundamental place we still need to play a role. And then analysis wise, what do we notice? Well, AI is driven towards consensus. It's built to summarize, and obviously, what a lot of insight comes from is outliers and contradictions, especially in qual. And so AI doesn't really favor those little nuggets you might hear in groups or depths that set you off on an analytic path to find great insight. It struggles with the richness of qual. It doesn't really understand tone, cultural references, subconscious, implicit, the things people don't say. It's not very good at that. And of course, as we've all got our own experience with ChatGPT, it gives you a false confidence because it is so utterly confident in some of the rubbish it is saying to you. And you get duped into thinking it is not hallucinating when it is, and it doesn't tell you that. So it's very much kind of guardrails need to be wrapped around it. So we had all this opportunity to deliver against that client challenge, but we had all these challenges with AI itself. So our view was that we needed to not jump on a pure tech only race to the bottom bandwagon. We needed to find a space where human value could breathe. And those 2 points that I've just referenced there, the upfront design to make sure the quality is good, and the insight that humans can give and provide their clients on the back end, need to be the 2 key places where we allow humans to play a role. And so qualify AI. So with that in mind, what we wanted to do was create a platform that automated the process of qual, where we can deliver lots of conversations at speed, and we can effectively replicate an IDI environment using AI moderation in any language, any market, and allow for text, voice, image, or video responses. So on the right, you can see the platform at play there. At the top is an example of the chat interface. So the speech bubbles in blue are the AI responding to, the respondent responding to the AI questions on the left. It's like a WhatsApp chat. And essentially, we write a discussion guide and a brief to the AI moderator that then asks those questions, reads the response it's getting from the humans, and then it will probe further based on the brief and the context of what the project is all about. And we can do that with any kind of stimulus. We can put in image, we can put in audio, we can put in scripts. We can do pretty much anything. And we use it largely for idea testing, creative, surface some audience insights. It's not, we don't use it for sort of real meaty, in-depth qual projects, but for the things it's really good at, it really does work well. And then below, we've got a dashboard that allows you to look at the operational research process, if you will. So how's the recruit going? How's the field work going? We've got a dashboard where you can look at the results, you can filter by gender, by age. You get AI summarizations, as you can see there. You also get all the raw verbatims and the sentiment. And that allows you and allows our researchers to very, very quickly, within minutes of fieldwork ending, get a really good sense of the narrative and the key things to focus on, but still allows you lots of time to dig in and start kind of pulling those AI summaries apart. So we will look at it often and go, we'll pick up on verbatims and go back and look and challenge what the AI summarization has said, because we'll spot more nuance and more granularity in those verbatims, and we'll play around with it that way. But where this really works is for clients who are wanting to move at that pace of business, that we're now not spending days and days sort of gathering and synthesizing our outputs. That's all happening automatically. But we're still allowing ourselves room to breathe and time to do the really human stuff in turning that into really good analysis and then pushing that out to our clients, having debriefs, writing decks, knowing all the things that only humans can know, the brand experience, the politics of the client, how to deliver all of that. So automation of the process, but certainly lots of room for human magic to still happen, which is what I've just said there. So some examples of where human brilliance still is allowed to flourish here. As I said, sharpening the stim. We need to make sure that stim works, so that consumers will understand it and that they can respond to it well. Digging into those verbatims, as I said, to look at the things that the AI hasn't surfaced. So those outliers, the contradictions, spotting little things that might cause problems for our clients down the line. Looking at those verbatims, looking at sentiment. Here's an example where we did a project where the AI summaries essentially across 2 ads looked identical. And that's one other thing that you have to be careful about with AI. They surface the same kinds of stuff based on their sort of LLMs they're built on. But we saw one quote in one project that said, "This is disgusting. This is a disgrace." And that obviously drove us to a very critical insight that stopped that ad getting it to air. So we've really got to keep doing that digging in. And that point I mentioned about knowing the client and the brand. So, the client in this example here was known for wanting to be slightly controversial and polarizing. And actually, that was something we unearthed as humans. The AI, and this is a general thing, I've been doing a bit more work recently on synthetic, and AI has a tendency to want a normalized distribution. So synthetic AI responses tend to ignore the extremes, and often clients are wanting to look at the extremes. And if you get some polarization for a brand or an ad, that can actually be really good if that's what you're about. So that's where humans still come in. And like I said, we know that Qualify isn't for everything. It's not for every type of project. But for these things here, we think it's pretty unbeatable. So the stress testing of creative before moving ahead, either very, very early on, before too much time on one has been spent on it, or right at the end to stop a disaster check. So we've done a few projects where ads about to be launched on a Monday, it's Friday, someone's seniors suddenly panicked, thinks they're going to step into some kind of culture war, and within 24 hours we've been able to run that and get the reassurance they need that it's okay. Ideas, innovations, propositions, prototypes, test them with real people, learn what excites them, what confuses them. Again, getting through lots of ideas before you as a client have gone too far down the process. Perfect for that. And understanding your audience, understanding behaviors, attitudes, occasions, doesn't replace really rich, in-depth kind of segmentation ethnography, but for getting quick, bite-sized pieces of understanding about an audience and their issues is great. And using it as well to wrap around bigger strategic pieces. So we often use it early to generate lots of hypotheses that can then go into kind of groups and workshops and things. Or when ideas come out of groups and workshops, we can use it very quickly to validate a whole range of ideas and give some sense of prioritization. So lots of ways it can be used, lots of ways it's brilliant. And this combination of taking using the AI to take the process and the heavy lifting out of what is and what can be quite a bespoke and arduous process is really where the power of this lies, allowing the humans to still flourish. And so that's why, as Jem said, we're really positive about this. We think that actually, rather than killing us all, AI is ushering in a new golden age, I think, especially for qualitative research. And a few things to end on before we open up the questions. The first is we think it's going to finally get us paid for the human value we bring to clients. So most research agencies, most research projects are built on the left. So we get paid for a lot of the operational stuff, of finding the people, talking to the people, doing that process, get some direct costs, mark it up, but you never have the time or the value that actually what we're doing, which is bringing brilliant strategic insight. We never really feel that we get fair value for money. What the future holds is clients quite rightly are wanting things faster and cheaper, and AI can help deliver that. But the bigger piece of the puzzle now should be that thinking, and we should start charging for that. So we think it's a real chance for us to reevaluate the way we charge clients for what we actually do and what we bring. The second point is democratizing not just research as a whole, but that strategic insight. So paying people good money for brilliant thinking, is often been the playground of the big companies. Now we think we should be able to offer that smart thinking to all sorts of brands, all sorts of companies who either couldn't afford it before or who just don't really even think about doing market research. It's a world that we operate in, they just don't access. So democratizing that thinking to all, in the way that I've explained, we think is the other thing. The third thing is we're finding it is reopening people's eyes to the brilliance of qual generally. So we get back in the door through having something like Qualify. They see how it can work in these confined sort of circumstance and constraints. They get the value of qual, and then they come back and go, could I do that on a large scale for a bigger project, a more strategic project? So companies that we've worked with in the past who've kind of almost stopped doing it, have come back to us. But also some of the projects we used to do. So Firefish years back was very famous for kind of like deep cultural investigations, taking clients and customers out on kind of safaris around Asia and around the world. And that kind of stopped from COVID, and it didn't really start again because it's a very expensive thing to do. But we're finding that as we can do more of their core budget with this, more of the human stuff is coming back because they're finding room for it. We're also talking back to that first slide again a little bit. What we've found more and more is clients do not want DIY research. The tech platforms offering DIY solutions are finding the problem that clients have realized that doing it themselves means they have to do it themselves, and they have neither the resource nor the expertise to do it. And in a lot of cases, we're finding that conversations that start around, I don't have 30,000 in 4 weeks, quickly become 15,000 in a week sounds great, but I need more reports, I need more markets, I need extra analysis. It builds back up to that 30. So they actually do have the money. It's the speed that the time they don't have. So actually, they'd rather be paying for it, and they'd rather be paying for a few hours of senior brilliance than lots of hours of junior process. So another great win. And the last point is it can help, and I think relevant to all of you, we really think it can help you punch above your weight. So allowing smaller agencies to do, say, multi-country work that you just couldn't get your head around before, but now you can almost centrally do that out of the UK or out of wherever you are in the world. Being able to do that gives you a chance to kind of like play to a scale that you couldn't have before, by letting AI do all of that heavy lifting again. So we think that for all those reasons, this is a great chance for Qual to reassert itself at the top table. And with that, I'll stop talking and see what questions we've got. Thanks for listening.
So much. That was really great. And we do have some questions. So shall I just go through them and you answer them for now?
Please.
Yeah. So Daljit was asking about, she said, so the moderators are AI, are the participants real people or also synthetic?
So the people are all real, very much so. So we've spent time building up a network of partnerships. So we can recruit at speed anywhere in the world. Importantly, they are not from quant panel companies. We've stayed very much clear from that because those are people who've been recruited by and large, you know, to do quant surveys that take 20 minutes for £1. They're not kind of people who want to be involved in qual. So we've built networks and databases, and we screen for the similar things you would screen for normal quals in terms of articulateness, and making sure we can get to quite granular samples as well, not just broad-based stuff. So all the people are real. The moderators are AI, so they are chatbots that we have, that we direct and are continually updating and training on best practice and things we're seeing as we go. So real humans, AI moderators.
Tom asks, in what ways do clients tend to over or underestimate what the AI part can do, assuming that they do?
Yeah, hey Tom. Good question. I think the biggest thing that we've seen, and we've done tests with clients, and actually we've had a lot of our clients um, stress test some of the kind of what I'd call the AI only tech platforms. And I think that the biggest challenge, or the biggest thing clients get duped into, is that when you first see these sort of AI summaries that take 50 interviews synthesized and almost go question by question, here's your answer. There's that point I said right from about false confidence. They're very well written, they're very succinct, they sound completely plausible. And so I think clients tend to go, brilliant, great, especially clients in organizations who aren't maybe part of the insights team, but we see a lot of kind of clients coming direct to those platforms to get stuff done quick. So they take at face value what they see as the summarization. And then the bit they underestimate is essentially all the bits that got to that. So when we ever go back in with clients and go like into verbatims and pull things out, you find a lot of stuff that the AI hasn't commented on in the summarization, because it's looking for, it's kind of looking for popular answers and consensus, which again isn't what we're trying to look for in qual. So I think that's the biggest thing that clients kind of still look a lot at that coming out at face value, and it still takes a skilled human analyst to go in and pull that apart.
We've got a few questions. Sorry, you carrying on.
Sorry.
We've got a few questions, and I was going to suggest, rather than just listening to me, if anybody wants to ask it themselves, just unmute themselves. Anita, Alice, Barbara, Joe, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's Anita here. Oh, sorry,
Hi.
I'll make myself visible just very quickly. My question was, what role, if any, do you see for your overseas partners? Do you need recruitment? Do you need moderation? Do you need analysis? Do you need reporting? Or does the AI do all of that? The reason I ask is because over the last few years, we've seen overseas agencies have stopped asking for a lot of reporting to save costs. So if it's, which means that a lot of the time we're just recruiting, incentivizing, moderating, and with simultaneous translation, the researchers are listening in and they do their own analysis. Is there still a role for us overseas agencies?
Can I answer that, Rich?
Please.
So hi, Anita.
Hi.
I think we would differentiate between the Qualify AI platform, which is automated research at its heart, and what we call more higher value research. I think the thing that we're all suffering from is intense increased client pressure on budgets and times, which is why we're all looking at ways to be more cost effective with our international research, and that's probably in response, explains what you're seeing. But with Qualify AI, it's completely automated in terms of the research process. So we don't have any international partners. So it can auto translate. We can access international sample, and we have our own expertise in most parts of the world internally, who can add context and in interpretation. Occasionally, we'll reach out just for some context. you know, some kind of, you know, really short term, an hour or two's consultancy. But for this type of work, which is we think is part of the Qual toolkit, not replacing everything at all. We don't work with partner agencies.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else who's typed a question want to ask?
But Barbara's asked one about oh, sorry, Alice. Hi.
Sorry.
Alice.
Hello, hi everyone. I was just wondering just specifically about recruitment, because I don't know if I'm just missing something or if I'm, you know, just old dog about this. But so you're using panels, but not quant panels. And so does that mean that you don't need to create screeners? It's just very simple kind of dynamics within the platform that pulls the right people in, or how does it work, Richard?
Yeah, so we have like I say, you're right. So not quant panels, but I don't call them panels, but communities and networks of people who've essentially recruited people for various other reasons than research, but you can mine them for research. So, but we still write screeners. I mean, you don't need to write long ones. You can sort of tell us your criteria, and we'll go find them. But that's still part of very much part of the process. So, in terms of like, you know, we've got set fees for the project, so we don't, because of the speed, we don't want to be going back and forth all the time. But yeah, you tell us who you're after, as long as that's within kind of, you know, a broadly agreeable incident, and it's not looking for needles and haystacks, it's all good. And then our partners will target those people, and then they bring them to the platform, and then we rescreen them again within the platform just to make sure they are who they say they are.
There's sort of somehow a people role within that kind of gathering people together. It's not just automated within the system and the platform.
No.
I think so. When the whole philosophy all the way through this was to preserve the human input where it is most relevant and automate where it's not. And so getting really good quality real people is a fundamental part of Qual. You shouldn't be doing it without that. So that's where we you know, use communities that are proven to be real people, and we select them in a relatively human way, and continue that all the way through. Just to, we've only got 3 minutes left, and there are some very interesting questions on there. Can I just do a rapid fire answer to some of them? Joe, you asked a question about how do you think the development of researchers will be affected? It's a really interesting question, and one that has come up a lot across all the different industries. And I think the received wisdom, certainly what we thought initially, was this is going to be really bad news for junior researchers, because how are you going to train them up when all the most basic moderation has been done by chatbots? Actually, we're seeing some really interesting evidence from our juniors that they are finding a lot of the AI tools actually help them upskill much faster. So we use AI, large language model analysis, support. They use ChatGPT to help start off writing discussion guides, and many other things, initial summarization and analysis. And what we're hearing from them is actually it helps upskill them much more quickly than they would. We're perhaps not the best agency at training. We're a very fast-paced, small agency, and training has most of the time been learn on the job, which is supplemented by more formal stuff. But these tools really seem to help with upskilling people more quickly. It's a different skill. I think research in the future is going to be a different skill. Yes, there'll be some set piece face-to-face moderation, but actually a lot of it is how you work with the AI tools to get the most out of
Thank you. That's a really interesting perspective. I'm Joe asked the question, so just to say thanks for that. That's really interesting.
That's a pleasure. And Barbara, you have asked a number of questions. I specifically wanted to answer, how do we envisage working with ICG members and independent Qual? We're for the first time, we're opening up the Qualify AI platform to independents and smaller agencies. Ideally, well, not even ideally, we opt for non-competitive clients to us. Basically, we will help you use the tool, so you will be able to do the automated Qual, and you will then use the dashboard to produce your own strategic reports off the back of it, which is how we use it in Firefish. The good news for all of us in the industry is the amount you can charge versus the time spent elevating the AI summary up to something you'd be happy to present to your client is massively more rewarding. So therefore, it feels like a really good solution for all of us in the industry. It allows us to get to the strategic insight that our clients value us for, and that we're actually paid for far more quickly and far more cost effectively. And it's now past. We can keep answering questions if people want, or we can pause for a minute.
Why don't we go for the Lisa's question about can we jump in on moderation where follow-on questions have been asked?
No, it's a short. No, it's a kind of an instant recruit IDI, kind of 20-25 minute IDI. We're looking at a number of things in the pipeline. One is how we do more asynchronous work with the bots. We've also just been, not separately to qualify, but I've been looking a lot at AI personas and seeing some interesting things where off the back of your initial conversations, you can create little personas, synthetic personas of real respondents, and then have a bit of a back and forth with them. So that's not part of what we do now, but there's some interesting things around that would allow you to kind of keep going back in. But yeah, asynchronous and personas is a couple of ideas, but at the moment it's just a straight IDI.
I think a really important consideration, and something we've been extremely conscious of all the way through, is we only use this for the most basic stuff. Like when you need feedback, if you've got some complicated moderation or you really need some incredibly nuanced insight, then use your moderation skills yourself. If you need some feedback on some pretty clear questions and some rich insight, this is phenomenally successful. If you try and use it for anything too complicated, it's an abject failure. And we've been extremely clear with our clients. We turn down an awful lot of work that they want to do on this. We go, it's not right for it. This is for the right project, it is amazing. For the wrong project, it's awful. And it's very important not to try and make it too much. It is not a replacement for a human moderator or a human core researcher. It's a supplement to our toolkit. And interestingly, most of the work we get on this is incremental work to our normal work. It is research. It is stuff that clients wouldn't otherwise be doing because they haven't got the time or the budget to get this sort of human insight.
Okay, I know we're running out of time, but could you, if you can spare the time for Annabelle's last question, if you can answer it about comparability with what we might otherwise offer. Can you see that question? If I'm offering 6 concept testing.
Well, now that's for you to work out, but that's a good starting point. If you think of what you're charging for 6 concept testing groups, and then you can offer 50 automated chats in a day, and then maybe a day or two to write, or even less, half a day to write your findings. You kind of then decide what you're going to charge your client. Is the speed advantage so much you can charge them the full amount, or is there a sort of middle ground? I mean, I can tell you offline if you like, Annabelle, but we kind of see it as a sort of middle ground, as Richard showed there. They won't pay 30 grand for 4 weeks. But they will pay 15 grand for a week, and actually they may pay 30 grand for a week if they've got multiple markets. But the point of this, and I think one of the most important points for us and as an industry, really important to consider, we should be pricing on value, not time. And when you price on value, when the time, both of the process and our own input, is massively reduced, the equivalent day rate or hour rate is many multiples of what you would normally charge. And I think it's important to recognize that, and we are being paid that because that is the value of the insight that we're giving. And as an industry, we've really shot ourselves in the foot by costing by time for so long. And we should all stop doing it.
I understand if people need to go, I'm sorry, we've gone over. Jem, can you answer one more from Joe? Last
You can
one.
answer as many as you like. Joe.
Joe, go for it.
I've got one. Yeah, I haven't written it down. I was just going to ask it. So thank you very much. It's super interesting perspective, and to see this developed by researchers who understand research is very refreshing, as opposed to kind of something coming out of Silicon Valley who've kind of discovered that qual exists and they try and monetize it. So it's really, really interesting. I guess this is a kind of a slightly more meta question about research industry, but you may have encountered an answer to it through your use of this platform, is the kind of the relationship we develop with participants about how we kind of value and respect their time and data. So I've seen quite a lot about respondents turning in stuff that they've used AI for. So, you know, I've gone on and got ChatGPT to fill in all my answers for this panel or for this survey or whatever. And I guess I'm just wondering whether you've got a view on how this kind of work affects our relationship with participants, whether they feel that if you're AIing me, I can AI you back, you know, whether it kind of cheapens anything, whether they kind of understand that they're being moderated by AI. It's a bit of a rambling one, but it's just about that kind of relationship between us and our participants and the value that we ask of them and give them back, I guess.
It's a really good question, Joe, and a much bigger and more fundamental one than we've got here. I would say that the last 10, 20 years of sample, the way it works has like almost killed the research industry and the respect that we as an industry show to respondents, and anything that changes that model is to be welcomed. I think I mean, we're very upfront that this is an AI. We're not pretending to be a person at all. People are paid for their time, you know, in the same way that you would pay a qualitative respondent. They're paid a reasonable amount, not pennies, you know, for however many surveys they can complete. And we kind of hope that we're showing them some interesting stuff. You know, part of the you know, the qualitative contract, if you like, is, hey, let's have a look at this new and interesting stuff, and we're interested in your views, and so we try and maintain that, even though it's in an automated format. You know, again, when I talked about, we went into this trying to maintain the human in all of this. When you deconstruct qual and you look at where the human is, the human is in the conversation. It's a two-way conversation. It listens to what the other person says and then builds on it. So there's a chatbot doing that, but it's still listening and building on it, and it gives an approximation of that. So we've found, you know, if you take part in these things, on the whole, they're quite rewarding.
Can I
go on?
Just wanted to finish just a couple of builds from Jem. This point about transparency is key. So as you said, we tell them that. We also say that human researchers are involved and will be looking at things anyway, so they fully understand what's going on. The second thing on the relationship is we've played around with this a bit, but people quite like this. They're able to feel a little bit more honest with an AI moderator on some topics. We've had a lot of challenges, especially in the US, but people don't want to talk about anything anymore because they're going to offend someone. And actually, some projects we've done on some very sensitive topics, we've found people being able to be more honest. So actually, there's a positive upswing. And the last point I want to make from a technical point of view, to your point about AI being AI, we've built in a lot of quality control checks. So people can't cut and paste answers. They get demerited if they type gibberish or a monosyllabic, and they do that too much, they get kicked out. So we've put some quite strict barriers in from being outbotted by their bots.
Thank you. That's a super useful, because all of that's been really, really useful. Thank you for answering both of my questions. I appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. hopefully this is the start of a conversation between you guys and the ICG. That was absolutely brilliant. We've got the lots of thanks from in the chat from everybody. So thank you everybody for coming. I will circulate the recording. It'll be on the website very soon. And thanks for your time. And obviously, Jem and Richard, thanks so much for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for organising it, Lucy. And we are more than interested in having just conversations about this with anybody, not to try and tell you our stuff, though if you want to use Qualify, get in touch with Richard or I. But if you want to talk about how AI is changing our industry, I'd love to have a coffee with anybody, because I find it a fascinating topic, and I think there's huge opportunities for us if we get it right.
Thanks a lot. Have a good afternoon, everybody. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.